Hello, welcome to day one of our 28-day journaling challenge. I'm so happy you're here. I hope you have your journal. I've got mine. I've got my planner here and a cup of tea and anything else that you need to get comfortable before we begin. Now, because today is day one, I want to do a little bit of an introduction. Normally, I will guide us to dive straight into the journaling practice, but today I want to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of journaling and why we're doing this thing and why we're here. It's always nice to get a little bit of an understanding to motivate us and keep us moving forward, I think. I'll have a sip of my tea. So, it's getting a bit cold if I'm honest. Since the 1970s, early 1970s, psychologists started to pioneer the scientific study of writing and its impact on our mental health and the way that we live our lives, and obviously our behaviors and things like that. And central to this idea was that writing offers us a place to reflect on our experiences and see them from another perspective. It's about stepping back and really looking at what's happened. Reflection is really important because it gives us a chance to learn from the experiences that we're having. So often we're having experiences, and when we're in the moment with them, we're just reacting or responding in ways that we're familiar with, or repeating old habits and patterns that perhaps aren't actually that healthy or useful. And so when we take some time back to reflect and think about what's actually happening, it offers an opportunity to learn and to do things differently. Another really wonderful thing about writing is that writing acts as a mirror. It allows us to see our innermost thoughts and feelings and desires. It allows us to access our truth. And of course, everyone's truth is individual. We all experience our own truth in our own way. But if you don't know what you feel is true for you, then how can you ever make a decision in your life that continues to support and align your beliefs and who you are or who you're wanting to become? There is so much power in words, which is why I'm obsessed with journaling. It's become one of the most effective and impactful practices in my life. It helps as a form of meditation. It helps with reflection. It allows me to dig deep and process and move through really difficult situations in a way that is comforting and inclusive and supportive and inexpensive. All it requires is some time and some dedication to actually sitting with what's coming up and allowing myself to process it and move through it. I think Joan Didion said something like, I don't know what I think until I write it, something like that. And I really, what's that word? I really resonate, that's the word. I really resonate with that idea because I also often don't really know what I think until I write it down. And so what I notice that what most of us do is that we have these repetitive patterns of like thinking the same thing over and over and over again in loops, and it just goes around in circles and round in circles. And writing it down instead of just allowing ourselves to circle with it provides us with a platform and a vehicle to release what's going on, to stop the circling around in our brains, to actually put it down and get it out of our bodies and out of our thoughts, and then connect to it from a different perspective or from a different place. Like, okay, now it's out. I don't need to keep thinking about it. What's the solution? What's the next step? What am I learning here? So, the fundamentals of psychology-based journaling are really simple. It's just to understand what has happened, why it's happened, and then navigate a new way of moving forward. Let's begin. So, journal ready, pen ready. I am using the timer on my phone because I'm going to give us, open, thank you, 3 minutes to answer sort of 3 sets of questions. They're 3 questions, but some of the questions have like sub-questions in them, or topics or something. You'll see. I want you to think about a recent event or experience that you've had that triggered you, that brought something up for you, that's been worrying you, that's provided you with some resistance, that you want clarity on. We're going to have 3 minutes for each of the 3 questions, and I've written them in my journal so I can journal alongside with you. We're going to do this together. So, question 1, step 1, part 1 is recall the event and write it down descriptively. And so the 2 sub-questions here are what happened and who was involved. I'm going to start the timer now. If you notice that there's a lot coming up and 3 minutes isn't enough time, please press pause. I will be here because this is a video. So press pause right until you're empty. Like, this is part of the process. Right until you're empty. Don't hold back. This isn't for anyone else except for you. This is your own personal therapy, essentially. Your own safe space to express, articulate, and process what's happening in your world, especially the hard bits. The good bits too, but we'll get to that another time. So, I'm going to repeat the question just in case we got lost. Recall the event that we're going to write about and write it down descriptively. So really describe what happened, how you felt, and who was involved. Ready? 3 minutes. We've got about a minute left. I'm writing about a difficult friendship that we kind of had it wasn't even a disagreement, but we just kind of concluded the friendship. I don't even know. We just decided to stop speaking, essentially. And it's really hard, and I'm trying to figure out what happened and how I can move forward from here. That's what I'm journaling on. Okay, enough, stop. Next question. Let's take a few minutes, 3, again, to reflect and interpret the event or what happened. So what were the most important or distinctive or painful or challenging aspects of this experience? How can you explain it? So what's your explanation for what happened? And thirdly, this is a really, really important one, can you see a pattern here? Has this kind of situation occurred previously with other people or in other circumstances or in different environments? Can you see a pattern that's repeated itself in your life? Really good to be clear on that. Okay, let's begin. Have a little sip of tea. We're about halfway. About 30 seconds left. The last question, is there a pattern here, is quite a tricky one for me, because I am realizing that in the circumstances that I'm writing about, there is a pattern here, and that means that there's something here for me to learn, and my soul is asking me to grow from this. And it's difficult to acknowledge that and to own that truth and to take responsibility for when things happen that are really uncomfortable, that really hurt, where we have, and we always do in some way, have played a role. And when it becomes very, very clear on how that role, or what my role was, and how that's played out, and how I am creating this repetitive pattern because of conditioning or past belief, or because of beliefs and past experiences, now I have an opportunity to choose a different way. And that means responding in a different way, or making completely different choices, and becoming really aware of the triggers when I'm about to fall into that same pattern. So our time is up for this one. The second section. I can't get the words out of my mouth today. All right, Third section, last question. This is where we get to conclude our experience and event by getting really clear on what the key takeaways and the lesson is. So literally, the question that you answer here is, what have I learned? Let's begin. I have learned a lot personally. I'm running out of page here. We've got 30 seconds left. All right then. How did you go with those? What did you learn? How do you feel? Isn't it easy and actually quite fun when you take a moment to stop and reflect on what is really going on? I always like to leave you with a bonus question. So if you're up for it, when this video ends, sit down and complete the last little section. In this video, in this topic, the psychology-based fundamentals of reflective writing, the magic bonus question is, how will I do things differently based on what I've learned here today? And it's a huge one. It's such an important one. I'm definitely going to journal on that because that's something that I need to get really clear on, so that the pattern that I've noticed happens in my life in some relationships ends, because it's actually not healthy for me and it's not healthy for them. And the reason why it's painful and the reason why it's come up for me is because my soul wants me to learn and to grow from this. So I am accepting the challenge.